and review the Brachot that Hashem has given us. The Shir usually has two themes to it. One is you try to analyze a specific topic each year, something each year, and then the second part, a review of the Brachot that we have. And, sometimes, with all the challenges that we have here in Eretz Yisrael, we forget that there's just so many Brachot. So I always like to remind everyone, one of my favorite shots, and I think that's what this year is each year. So a simple pshat is we ask Hashem that we're alive when the Gula comes. And I saw another pshat that is one of the Yidim of our Rav Kook, where the pshat is not that we hope to live here during the Gula. We hope to see when you return. Why? Because so many people could be here when Hashem is doing all this miraculous events, and you won't see any of it. You're just going to see all the bad, you see all the negative, and you see the horrible stuff, and you see all the infighting, and you don't see like, oh my gosh, there's Kibbutz Galil in front of our eyes. But if you don't learn how to look at it, you won't see it. And the land is so fertile, and we're improving in so many ways, but if you don't learn how to see it, you'll just miss it. You see all the problems, and the chilanim, and the government, and the draft, well, that's all you see. So what's the bracha? What's the request? V'techazena inenu. Please, Hashem, let us be able to see when you return. Not let us be here when you return. Let us see it, because we're afraid that we could be here and just not even see it. And all we're going to see is problems and problems and problems. And chas v'shalom, that we should be like those who say, better on the Ottoman Empire, under the British Empire, what we have here is nothing, and it's what, like, to me, it's kfui tova on the highest level. So to me, that's what this year is each year. In 31 pages, we're not going to get anywhere close to finishing it. It's a take-home booklet, okay? Anytime you get a little bit down during the year, when things are going rough, keep the same. Okay? The brachot are endless and endless. So we're going to just do the headlines from the pamphlet, and I really hope you can enjoy it through the year, okay? So I have a few fundamental beliefs that in life in general, and specifically how it regards to the Medina. Okay, so this we'll go through step by step. The other ones we're going to just be able to look in the general points. Okay, so my fundamental beliefs regarding Midinat Yisrael. These are my opinions. You certainly can feel free to agree or disagree. Number one, the intuitive faculty must be harnessed cautiously and wisely. Always be careful regarding both premature jubilation and premature pessimism. To me, the intuitive faculty is a very important part of our thinking, but for a person to base life decisions, or even minor decisions, on that is just wrong. Certain things that you think are just great, and they're not. It just felt right. And certain things that, it's terrible, it can't be, and it can be. So specifically regarding our topic, Medina is going to come, and salvation is going to come from Hashem through Herzl, how first he wanted to assimilate. And now he's going to go and he's going to be the salvation of the Jewish people. Impossible. What do you mean impossible? You can tell me it sounds weird. It doesn't intuitively sound right? Okay, fine. Plenty of things intuitively don't sound right. If you want to ask me, someone who loves medieval Jewish philosophers, and I'm a big fan of Maimonides, does it intuitively sound right that Rabbi Myers and all of us here, we're going to be dead, and they're going to be rotting in the ground, and one day we're all going to come back to life again? Sounds weird to me. Our intuitive faculty, especially a Maimonidean type of person, is not going to say, yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, we have a Masorah, and a Masorah tells us exactly what's going to happen. If you don't believe it, you're a heretic. So our intuitive faculty has to be used very, very cautiously. Okay? So anyone who just says, this can't be the case, it doesn't mean anything. Sources from our Masorah. 2, positive attitude towards our fellow Jews. Okay? There has to be a very important difference between positive not completely halachic observant. There are people who are not from. And if halacha defines as someone who's not from. And it might mean that their wine that they touch, you can't drink it. And it could be they have known that much trustworthiness in many areas of halacha. So halacha, they're not observant people. Is a person tinuk shenishba? He didn't know any better. That's God will decide that. And that might affect halacha also. That's one area. And then you have, as a Jew, is it possible you can contribute to the Jewish nation? Or to the world in general? Yeah, but he's not halacha. And therefore what? It's two separate things. And I think it's important. Number 3, which is harder than number 2, most people tell me. Positive attitudes, halachic observant Jews who have a different hashkafa. I think sometimes it's harder for people to relate to another group who are shkafically, halachically they're observant, but just they have a different hashkafa, whether it's the Satmar, Hared, the Datilami. That I think sometimes is a bigger challenge, and be able to see the positive of the group. And 4, many opinions regarding concept of hishtadlut and bitachon. How much an effort has to be made, how much you rely that Hashem is going to help. There's a huge range of opinions, especially over the last few centuries. It became very big. The gap between different opinions. I personally embrace the approach of many Rishonim, especially by the Rav, who made one must be proactive and rational in his plans and pray favorably in system. Meaning that, let's say you need to get 15,000 shekel a month. So I'll have bitachon that Hashem's going to provide it for me. That's one approach. And you have 8 kids to marry off, and you're making 6,000 shekel a month, then you're going to have to pay for an apartment. You have a say there. Well, wait a minute, you have millions of shekels coming up over the next 10 years of expenses. How are you going to deal with that? You have a say there, Hashem Yazor. That is an approach that many of our holy brothers espouse. That's not where I'm coming from. And I don't think the Rishonim have held that way, in my opinion. And I think you have to have a rational plan. And if you need to make 16,000, well, what's your plan? And if you need to have some kind of security in the country, well, what's your plan? And to say, no, I have bitachon, Hashem is going to help. So that's not my opinion, but I will say Rav Shmulevitz does seem to go that way. Rav Desta does seem to go that way. It's more like just bitachon on that level, if you reach that level. Rishonim, I don't think went that way. Maimonides, Sadigon, Kuzari, I don't think they held that way. And the Rav certainly also did not. And that's what I'm more and to me, it's a very, very big difference. Because if you hold, you have to be pragmatic and practical. So then, wow, the economy is a crucial issue. You have to be very practical how to build up an economy. And you have to be very practical about a military. Because you're working with a practical, rational plan. And then you get a daven to Hashem to bless the plan. But if it's, no, have bitachon, everything's going to work out, well, no, you're not going to, not only are you not going to be involved in the process of building the economy and the agriculture and the military, you won't even value it. Because we didn't use this to do it. Hashem will take care of it anyway. It's a different head. It's a different head. And then number 5, positive tools, challenges viewed as essential tools for growth. To me, anytime there's a challenge in life, that's how Hashem set up the world. He set up the world that way, and therefore, let's say this past year, the number 1 challenge, we'll deal with this a little bit here, was the whole draft law and stuff like that. So you say, oh, you see all the back and forth fighting, well, you see this whole enterprise is just so terrible, the government is evil, everyone is evil. Hold on, there are certain issues that were under the surface for 50, 60 years, and now they're coming up. Challenges are good, if you can deal with them in a proper way. Whether it's challenges in a marriage, in business, in life, that's how Hashem made the world, okay? That's built in that way. Now, those are the basic principles of Maya, and if you take that, you just apply it to everything else. So, for example, Rabbi Wine, just a cute little essay he wrote called, he doesn't like the term, and I don't like it either, Jeremiah Journalism. Okay, which just says people love bad news. The press loves bad news, media loves bad news, that's what sells. People like the negative stuff. So I think our entity in general is towards negativity, and the media is that way, and that's what they're going to paint. And I think it's our job to always make sure we don't see, that we see the negative and we deal with it, but that's not what our focus is on. Okay? The next section, Pinterest, some great quotes from the Goyim. Okay? From Adams, from Goethe, Tolstoy, about what they said about the Jews. Okay? And next page, page number 4, Hafra Twain, all of them said the most incredible things about the Jews. And they're referring to all Jews, non-religious, regular Jews. We ourselves have to feel that way. We are an incredible group of people. And if these people could say so much, that this is a unique bunch. And these Goyim are saying it despite the famous rule of Esav, son of Yaakov, somehow built into the Gentile nature is that they hate us. And still the people could see that there's just something so unique about us. We have to see that about ourselves. We're an incredible nation, unstoppable in many ways with God's help. Okay? So that's introductory stuff. Upbeat, very positive, basic principles. And if you put it all together, I think you see what's going on here. Just amazing, amazing brachot. Okay? So here, the part 2, for someone else, the mysterious paths of redemption. We mentioned before, if you go by intuition, this can't be redemption. This can't be a salvation from a Herzl and a Ben-Gurion and this one and that one. But you know what? Look at the history. What's the history of all of our salvations? It was always in the weirdest way. When I say weird, I mean not objectively, God had his plan, but intuitively weird. Just look at the example. Okay? So number one, the Zionist movement itself started off in a weird way. Okay? You had what should have happened was, in 1800s, late 1700s, early 1800s, who was coming? The Baal Shem Tov, the Gra students, and who else? Some Sophia students, they were coming. Right? So you'd think it would all sprout from the holy people. And then you had a few religious Zionist leaders came in the early 1800s, Rabbi Tzvi Hirsch Kalischer, Rabbi Alkalai, Rabbi Eliyahu Gutmacher. Rabbi Tzvi Hirsch is Tzvi, named after him, and Stei Eliyahu named after him. And those were three giants pushing the Jews. You gotta come, you gotta come, you gotta come. And of course, did anyone listen to them? No. It was not easy just to stay in Chutz La'aretz and come to Israel. There's no government there, no Jewish government, etc. So no one listened to them. And then finally, who started picking up steam? The non-from Jews, the Maskilim, somehow they were able to convince people. So it's weird that the religious Zionists who are davening all day for Israel, no one listened to them. The secular people and the Reform who took, what was the first thing the Reform movement did in their Siddur? Anyone know? They didn't throw out the Siddur totally, but they threw one line out. What line? What bracha? Anyone know? Shuchotzion. They took all the reference to design. A good Jew is loyal to his country. He's not going to go ahead and, right? That's what he did. So these people now are going to be the ones who are going to build up the Zionist movement. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense. God had his plan, and that was it. And look through history, you'll see again and again. Let's look at the page number 5, the ways of redemption. Okay? So, if we just look again and again, there's one line that we always have to keep in mind. It's the pasuk in Yeshayahu. Lo machshvotai machshvotechem. That's it. How God has his plans and what we feel should be the plans, there's no connection. And look at just example like number 4, the origins of royalty. Okay? So where did David come from? What's David's background on each side? So, what's his background? So you have Yehuda meets who on the road? Tamar on the road. And then who comes from there? Peretz. And then that's the Messianic dynasty. It's not a very nice background. And then Moab. What's the background of Moab? Ruth. So you have Ruth who comes from Moab. And what is Moab? Moab, Me'ab. Which is what? A father sleeping with his daughter. And that's David's Ruth. That's pretty horrible. In this world of Shidduchim, right? Unless you have perfect lineage, you're not going to get a shit up, right? So David had no chance at all. Look where he came from. But that was God's plan, that this person with this horrible background, he's going to be the David Mashiach. Okay? And Shlomo also, same thing. Shlomo comes from who? So Bathsheba, David, and was that a beautiful match that was so simple? Of course not as well. Okay, number 6, page number 6. Look at the state of the Jews throughout. During the Exodus from Egypt, what was our status during Egypt? I'm sorry about the heat over here. We may have to open up the windows or something. You can't get the air on. I'm sorry, apologize. So during the Yetzias Mitzrayim, what was the level of the Jews during the Yetzias Mitzrayim? Very low. We had nothing to redeem. God gave us some mitzvahs, and maybe we could do something. Shoftim was horrible. The second Mikdash era, what was in the second Mikdash? What was going on there in the second Mikdash? What were the Jews doing? The all beautiful Jews that came back. How many Jews came back in the second Mikdash? How many? Book of Ezra. About 100,000, 500,000, a million? 40,000, 42,000 people. And who were they? The Gedolei Hador? No. Who were they? People who went to marry. They were shiksas. They didn't know what a sukkah was. They didn't know what Torah was. And those were the people who built up the second Commonwealth. That was it. Then the next, page 7, you'll say, okay, it's one thing where leaders have horrible backgrounds. And it's one thing where the people during the redemption eras are not on the highest level. But you can never have a leader who himself is what? Is not a tzaddik, a gadol hador. The only leaders that we ever have to always be the tzaddikim. Is that true? Now, any examples of leaders that we've had that were not the biggest tzaddikim in Tanakh? So look at page 7. What do you see? What do you see? Non-observant leaders. Can you name some? So you have Moshe, Aaron, and Ezra, and Nehemiah, of course, Gedol. And then who else do you have? Achav, Okay, you have Achav, Omri. They were horrible. They were horrible. And why were they able to be leaders? Why didn't Hashem just kick them out? And you know why? So the Chazal give reasons. Because he cared about the Jewish people, even though he cared about halacha. He cared about expanding the borders for them. Each one had his merit. Would we ever think that that's enough merit that he could be a leader of the Jewish people? No! God has his choices of who could be the leader, and that's it. So what do we see over here? What do we see over here? That pattern is that the background behind the leaders, the level of the people, the level of the leaders during times of salvation to be so anti-intuitive against what we'd ever think. And yet what? That's God's choice. Lo machshava machshavtecha. And that's what it's Eliezer. It's Kedai worth to go through the whole tshuva, not just a little bit that we quote over here in the volume number 7, okay, at the end, where he writes that he says, you don't know God's ways. And he was very pro. Even you heard of Tzitz Eliezer, Eliezer Waldenberg? Not even anything. It was a gadol, passed away 3-4 years ago. Anyways, he was like one of the world experts in terms of medical, halacha, tops. Anyways, he writes that the whole idea of Jewish sovereignty is an amazing thing, and all the questions, how could it be from non-Jews, doesn't mean anything, these questions. They're silly questions. Okay, so that's the first 2 parts. Okay, basic philosophical principles, okay, about being proactive, about seeing the greatness of different Jews, what they do, even if they're not from, or they are from, they're different hashkafas than us, okay, and then the fact that the intuitive faculty is not a good litmus test for reality, okay, it's not. It's something that you have to take into account, but not more than that, in my opinion. And therefore, your intuition of how God's going to bring salvation, it should not be used as a judgment. Our Mesorah, that's how we could judge what Brachot are and what redemption is. That's it. Okay? Any questions on that?
Yeah, one.
Yes.
The idea that it can't come from these non-religious leaders, that was a statement that was made by somebody. And I want to say Chafetz Chaim, because that's what I thought, but I could be wrong about that. So where does such an idea come from then?
Listen, ideas, to me, I'm a source kind of person. You can show sources and fun, but people can say things without sources and it just takes hold. Everyone says on today, Az Issa D'Oraisa to create a Chag. You can never create a new Chag. The only way to create a Chag is whom? Who could create a Chag? Chazal, right? Sounds like a good argument. Yet the Mishnah Berurah, the Chassam Sofer and others say that there's something in history called Purim. You have Purim Frankfurt. Anyone heard of Purim Frankfurt? Where there was going to be a massacre and they were saved and they made their own Purim. Where each year, them and their descendants had a special holiday. Right? And the Mishnah Berurah, he brings it down. And that was Hanukkah and Purim. Where you can have your own Purim. And so the Poskim say it's like a joke. He had 300 people in the town and there were 80 Purims throughout history that different towns made. Okay? And yet you will hear every year people will say, Shalom, how can you make Yom Chag and this? Hold on, what do you mean? There's no open source. And I'm posting Mishnah Berurah, it's pretty from. That you can have your own Purim. Now, how do you celebrate that Purim? It's a good question. Different cheetahs, how do you do it? Sudas Hodah for sure. You should have Hesped on that day. Okay? But I'm just saying, if things take hold, and maybe based more, exactly on this point that I'm saying, maybe based on feelings more than what? Than sources. Okay? So if you show me a source, these sources I think show very nicely that you can have salvation come when the people aren't so from, their backgrounds aren't so great, and the leaders aren't so from. That's what we've seen consistently. If you can show me a source to something like that, could be there's an argument, I don't know. But I need sources. You hear what I'm saying? Just they say doesn't mean anything to me. You hear?
Yeah, I heard it in a specific name, though. I'll check.
You know, so we'd have to see the source, and maybe there's someone that would argue, but he would have to show, well, what are you going to do with all these? What are you going to do with all these people in Tanakh? And all these times of salvation through these people. You have to deal with this. Even if, let's say, the Chafetz Chaim said, no salvation can come through bad leaders. Okay, thank you, Chafetz Chaim, but how do you work that out with this? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, review number 3 is review of the past year's Brachot. They're just breathtaking. Really, really amazing. Okay? And we'll just read the headlines so you can get an appreciation. I really hope you take this home and you can appreciate it more to see everything that Hashem has done. Now, we and Hashem, it's a partnership and a beautiful partnership. Okay, Chief Rabbis join PM for Torah study session. So there's actually a history of the prime ministers having a shiur in their home on Tanakh. Who was the first one to do it? Anyone know? Ben Gurion. And then who picked up a few generations later, a few decades later? Menachem Begin. Okay? And then who picked it up again? Netanyahu. He started again. Well, they learned together, him and his wife. They have some Tanakh experts, and they learned together.
His son was nominated to...
Yeah, he done Tanakh. Yeah, he was very, very high. Very high up there. Okay? And he writes it down the bottom of page 8. What does he write? What does he say? So during the shir that we're discussing, it was at the Menachem Begin Heritage Center. Moses, 4 lines from the bottom. Moses, our teacher, going to enter the promised land. And we are here in this merit, in the merit of the story of our people to begin the inheritance of our ancestors, and we welcome every moment. It's a very great privilege to read this book and know that we are realizing what the Almighty commanded our people, and that we're here is tremendous zechus. Okay, I know people always complain. In America, the leaders can talk about God, and on the dollars it writes, in God we trust. The leaders here, they don't talk about God or anything. That's not true. Is Netanyahu a firm person? He's not a firm person. But he has no connection to Torah, to anything. You can't say that either. So it's a complicated person. The firmest prime minister we ever had was whom, of course? Menachem Begin never was Melech Halal Shabbos for Hesia, and maybe not even prime. I don't know. If he would touch wine, you could drink his wine. Halal Shabbos is a crucial criteria. Okay, so Netanyahu's wine might be a problem. Okay, so halachically there's issues about his halachic status as an aide and other things. But as someone who's trying his best to help out the Jewish people, to me, if you're not perfectly observant, then you can't do anything to Jewish people. Where do we see that? Okay, so we should appreciate it. You can argue with things that he does. That's for like anyone. Okay, so if you are the area, the chief rabbi is amazing on the top of page 9. Okay, they said that when they first started off testing the guys for the smicha test each year, they had it in the offices, in the Rabbanut offices. But now there's no room, so where do they have it each year? In the Binyanei Ha'umah, because how many students are taking the smicha test each year? See the number in that paragraph on top of 9? 6,000. That's amazing. And anyone knows the smicha test, even many of our holy Haredi brethren that don't exactly go for the Rabbanut, they don't like the Rabbanut, etc., they will admit the Rabbanut smicha test on Mikvos, on Shabbos, Kashrus, very, very, very high. You have 6,000 people. Serious B'nai Torah. It's an amazing thing. It's beautiful. Beautiful. Now, growing pains. This section we can't really go through, but we'll just go through the basics of it. Then I'll give you a little hadracha how to read it, okay? Growing pains. The argument over the state of Israel had to happen. This is my opinion. Feel free to argue. Contrast between different types of rabbinic disputes, okay? I say there's 3 kinds of disputes that we can have. 1, oral and written Masorah. Let's see, Shabbos, Kashrus, Brachos. 2, I'll explain in a moment what that means. Written Masorah, Korbanos, Yovel. 3, neither explicit oral or written Masorah state of Israel. Take any sugya. Pick a sugya now. Kashrus, okay? So let's say kashrus. So if I cook in a meat pot, and now it was paris, noodles, in a meat pot, and now it's sitting in the fridge, leftovers, and I want to mix it with cheese. Good question. Good question. Now, how do you get an answer to that question? What do you do? So you're a 17-year-old kid at home, okay? So what do you do? Well, if your family's all home, you can just do what? Ask your parents, who hopefully learn from their parents, hopefully learn from their parents. And there's no one home, so what do? So you go ahead, you open up, there's about 10,000 pages of literature on Basar B'chalav and this and that. So you have a written Masorah, from the Psukim to the Chumah, to the Gemaras down to the Toskim, and you have an oral Masorah, right? Okay. Baruch Hashem. Candle lighting, any question, that's what you have. Then you have another category, where there's no oral Masorah anymore, Korbanos, you have so much literature. Zavachim, Menachos, you have 100,000 pages of literature on Korbanos. But we don't have the Mikdash back. What are we going to do? We haven't done this for thousands of years. Baruch Hashem, we have people who are world experts in this stuff. They can ask any questions if they're working in the Mikdash. Then you have another sugya where there's no clear Masorah. Now what sugya is that? What? Or go to Kita Gimel. Thank you very much. You bring Rav Hanan and have a Talmud Kita Gimel. Excellent. Yeah, right. And then we'll give us how what to do. The state of Israel, a non-from government started by non-from people, and now they have control of the land. What do we do with this? Oh, well, let's just ask our father what his Masorah is on the state of Israel. And he'll ask his father. Not a chance. It didn't exist for 2,000 years. Oh, okay. Let's go to Masechet Midinat Yisrael, started by Herzl. Not going to find that Masechet either. So what are you going to do here? You can just pick, there's a statement over here. And then we can rely from that statement. So you're going to have the Gimel Shavuot from whom? The Gemara Ksuvos, that you can't take Israel by force, according to the Gemara there. So who's going to take that Gemara and run with it? Of course, whom? Satmar Rebbe. And he built a whole philosophy around it. And he was a giant. Rebbe was a giant. Unbelievable Talmid Chacham, unbelievable Posek, Bal Chesed, rebuilt the whole Satmar Jewry after the destruction. Incredible tzaddik. And Gadol, a giant. And he's going to work out. And you read through his books. He's a heavy hitter. And then you're going to have on the opposite extreme Rav Kook. How do you have such extremes here? So how can you have it? Why? Because you don't have Eid and Masorah. You just have little bits and pieces. You don't have Mesechus Menachos here. On the Midinat Yisrael, you don't. So you're going to have huge arguments. And when you have the arguments, like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? It had to happen this way. It had to be. Okay, so I wrote in the introduction, Baruch Hashem, in the growing pains, C1, that the arguments are heated, but they're civil. In contrast to neighboring, look at all the neighboring countries, Lahavdil. The arguments that they go is how many people? 10,000 killed a day? 20,000? How many is Syria gone already? A few 100,000? And how many homeless there already? So yeah, we have arguments, and we put each other down, and we don't always talk so nice to each other, we call each other some bad names, unfortunately. That's a tragedy. There's no room, in my opinion, for those kind of names that sometimes we call each other. Okay. But these arguments had to happen. And of course, number one argument this year was what? Was, of course, the draft law. A huge argument. And it's not between from only and non-from. Even in the from world and the Dati Lomi world, there's a lot going on there. And it's complicated stuff, okay? And I think if you follow the proper rules of debate, there could be something good that comes out of it. We can have good, healthy debate with each other. Okay? So my rules of debate, there's plenty more to add on, but the rules that I have are sources and facts. Anytime there's sources to be brought in, then that's it. A person goes and tells me, of course a Ben Torah has to be in the army. Look at what his blood is redder than anyone is redder than other people's. That doesn't mean anything to me. I need sources. And someone on the other side says, a Ben Torah, that's what's keeping the country going, is you're learning. And if he doesn't have to go to the army. These kind of arguments don't mean anything to me. Sources. And here we have sources. There are sources about the army. It's not so clear, and there's room for debate, but it would be like going ahead and the question of the pot, a meat pot and the noodles. Yeah, I think it's fine. It's not mixed with the meat. So of course you can mix it with dairy now, those noodles that were sitting in the Tupperware. No, it's made in meat pot. That's not nice. Meat pot, and now you can mix it with cheese. Those don't mean anything, these arguments. So anyone who's a Ben Torah or Bas Torah will know that's silly an argument. Let's go to the sources. Here too. You need to go to sources and try to get your signs in a rational way as much as possible. Number 2, arguments based on Chachma bin Das, that the clear understanding of both one's own and well of possession. Try to go through step by step. Criticize the other position out of the other. Try to criticize the position of the other person and not going ahead. And because he argues with you, so right away he is in Russia, he's Kofar, he's not Bikoris, he's Amalek. There's clear definition of what a Kofar is. Kofar is someone who denies Torah Shbacheh or Torah Shbechtav. A Russia is someone who's not following halacha. Don't throw those terms around. I argue with the position. And if you really think this position is a heretical position, it's violating one of the 13 principles of faith. Okay, the Reform movement says we abolish, we don't have any Torah Shbacheh. We deny Torah Sinai. It's heretical. Okay, but be very careful about those terms. Argue with the position and be very careful about going more than just argue with the position. Healthy criticism responds to cynicism. Okay, constructivism is the ideal. We actually offer an alternative. I think you're wrong what you're doing, but here is an alternative path that I think you should take. Okay, assume the other individual truly believes that his position is emet, just like you believe that your position is emet. Okay, so we're always convinced that whatever we do is just for the sake of emet. The other person, it's just a political agenda. And anything that that person says, if Lapid and anyone else, he's only doing it to do this. I remember someone telling me that why did Sharon bring in 1 million Russians? You know why? I know why. I said, let me hear your nevuah. And you know what his nevuah was? Beautiful. Very deep. He's bringing in 1 million Russians years ago. Why? Because most of them some of them are not Jewish and not religious. And this will go ahead and do what? Help balance the scales, having more non-religious and even non-Jews against whom? Against the religious, against the Haredim. What are you doing? Did you want to say that like that? Where do you see that? So you say you think it's bad to bring these people in, good to bring these people in, just focus on the position, not getting into psychoanalyzing why people are doing things unless he said why he's doing it. So it's very unhealthy, those kind of assessments, okay? And once again, focus on the specific debate. So the major issue this year, of course, was the draft law. I'm not here trying to go into sides. All I did was on the next few pages, I think, quoted from a lot of different people that talked about the issue during the year. And to me, and I pointed out by putting in DM, my opinion, where I think the person's arguing in a healthy, rational way, where he's been just a little bit too emotional or too cynical. And that's not for us, it's a quarter of 1 minute, 15 more minutes, okay? And now you have to read through it. My goal here in this rush was not to try to take sides on this. My personal opinion is that you cannot have a whole society exempt from the army. I do hold that way, okay? how should it be worked out, and how should the legislation happen? Was it already naturally changing, and by forcing it, it made it worse? Or no, this had to be done, that you can debate. But the specifics of it, who and how long, and what about Hezdi Yeshiva? Hezdi Yeshiva is not doing full-time either, right? And what about the Merkaz HaRav world? Well, they would learn for 10, 15 years and go to the only first few months. The details, I don't know, but they have a whole mass exemption that I don't see. It has to be worked a little better than that. But in terms of the details, it's a big sugya. But to me, you read all the comments, whether it's from Rabbi Gold, whether it's from Rabbi Dov Lippman, okay? And whether, I have a lot of quotes, and Slifkin, a lot of quotes from a lot of different people. To me, my focus wasn't so much on only the substance of the position, but the approach, how it's given over. Is it just jumping? Is it just attacking the other side? Or is it actually saying, okay, I understand your position, but here's what I argue, okay? So we'll just quote from one. So you have to go through this. It's too much here to go through. We'll just quote from one, Rav Avi Ner, who to me, let's say page 13, number 8. Okay? Now Rav Avi Ner, as we know, you all heard of Rav Avi Ner, the chief rabbi of Beit El and the Rosh Yeshiva Ter Kohanim in the Muslim Quarter. Okay? Passionate religious Zionist, the Talmud of Tzvi with the Cook. And what does he write in number 8, paragraph 8, page 13? As I wrote a week ago, Haredi Judaism represents the authentic first flaw of the Jewish people. Their commitment to Torah and to mitzvos is amazing. He says the only thing is, now that we're back home as a nation again, the nationalistic part, which has been absent for all these thousands of years, I think we need to add that in as well. And then I disagree with, because they're sort of trying to stay in their cocoon as they're still in Europe, and then I disagree. That's a good, healthy argument. He praises them, he sees the greatness, even though he is not exactly in that world. That's a sign of good, healthy debate. See the greatness, but here's where I differ. Here's where I argue. And there's sympathy, there's appreciation, and it's not cynicism. And as I said, we can't go through all of them, but it's kedai to go through and see. I wrote, in my opinion, I added DM in the bold point where I think there was good argument there, and I think that was a little bit more too cynical. Okay, so we're going to move on to on page 15. There's a study done recently. I know it was done in Mishpacha magazine about what the secular think of the Frum. So there's a very interesting article there, and Rabbi Gorelik, the editor, writes, I'm a little bit surprised that, we always thought they hate us and this and that, and a lot is built upon the fact that the Chilonim hate the Haredim, and then everything they're doing, it's a lapid, he's just trying to destroy us, and maybe it's a little more complicated than that. And I appreciate that someone, that the editor of the Mishpacha can write such a thing and realize, they did a poll, and they did survey that maybe it's not as bad as we think, and maybe we have to revisit. And even writes, he says, the average Chiloni will drive by Bnei Brak, you want to hate him, you want to love him, just nothing. Won't care to go in and see how he speaks about himself, but we see how we live. Are we doing something wrong? That we're not a model that they want to look at and see us. So that's amazing. Self-introspection is very impressive. So as I said, when you have arguments and you have fights, it's very sad, but it really has to go that way. And arguments, especially about the state of Israel, are going to be deep and they're going to be painful. That's how we have growth. Okay? So those are a lot of things on that, but we can't get through these. It could die to go through all those different articles. Okay? So on 17, just finishing up the bracha of spirituality, the learning that's going on. And the issues of trying to develop, work out how the Haredim and the army and the Nacha Haredim said all those points. One cute little point, the picture says 1,000 words. You see that cute little picture? Is a Sphere Soma Eget Stal. They had this on the buses this year. Hayom Tisha Yamim Shehem, that's a bus. They had it on the buses. Now, unfortunately, some secular person made a whole big stink about it, and they had to take it off. But I don't have to put that in the drasha. The fact Eget put it on, it was very, very sweet. And it's, the Jewish part of the country is there. I don't like looking at the average Jew, he is like anti-religious. It's not true. It's just not true. Okay, and you look at the study that came out, the amount of them have connection to the Masorah on some level or another is very, very great. Okay, now just in terms of more bracha, so the spiritual bracha, whether it's the amount of learning, which is a clear bracha, whether it's the 6,000 students that are taking a smicha test every year, and even if it's a spiritual struggle of how to develop and keep a certain religious Haredi lifestyle, but then deal with new realities, even that to me is a bracha as well. It's a challenge, but it's a bracha. Okay, moving along, just unbelievable facts over here. Number one, we're just going to read through the titles now. The bracha number 2 is high tech, where, of course, to help move along in the world, you need a proper economy, you need to develop as well. Israel joins European Nuclear Research Organization. 2, more special products per capita than any nation on earth. 3, Israeli startup makes world's first mobile printer. You can have it, keep it in your pocket, and have this little thing in your pocket that's actually a printer. How it works, I have absolutely no idea. 4, Intel to invest $5 billion in Israel plants. While the whole world wants to keep destroying us, you have top companies in the world that are saying this is the place to be, this is the place to invest. Next page, 18, Israel signed digital agreement with the UK. Just all these just incredible pieces of information. 6, Israeli breakthrough recharges cell phones in 30 seconds. Chas v'shalom, that your phone should die, and you have to wait an hour to recharge it. It's a bullshit. It's an embarrassment. So Baruch Hashem Israel's taking care of that. 30 seconds. I know 30 seconds is still a lot. Next year, hopefully, we get 2-3 seconds. Lockheed Martin opens up in Israel. That's also not just nice news in terms of the economy, in terms of the high tech, but also in terms of Beersheba. Whose dream was it to settle the South? That was Ben Gurion. So his dream is really being fulfilled now. So the high tech is unbelievable. And as I said, if you look at life in a practical way, which is what I do, and we have to be practical about our goals, and then daven Hashem, that these things are very, very important. 3, the economy. Israel's GDP to pass in a new Israel shape $1 trillion for the first time this year. I don't know how much $1 trillion is, but it sounds like a lot. So we're really making progress in terms of our economy. Okay, where it was only 60, 70 years ago, people who lived in Jerusalem and Yerushalayim, what did they do sometimes, tragically? They died of starvation. There was no food, nothing. And yeah, the country's moving along. Do we have any poor people here? We do. Way too many. But the more we build up economically, hopefully more people can have money and be able to live like mensches. 19, economics ministry behind high-tech project in the Negev. 3, let's go right to 4, Israeli exports from 6 million to 91 billion. Israeli kind of climbs from 138th place to the 29th in global exports since 1948. In its 65 years, it has enjoyed fast growth based, among other things, on the fast and significant increase in exports, says Exports Institute Chairman. State of Israel's volume of exports has grown 15,000 times. That's unbelievable. Just unbelievable. Bracha number 4 that we focused in on this is we had the bracha. First one is the spirituality, second one is high tech, third is the economy. Bracha 4 is kibbutz galiot. Okay, where first it talks about what's going on in Europe, and the research of the anti-Semitism in Europe is horrible. Okay, and it says Jews are Europe's most targeted minority. Okay, so anyone thinks that Europe did a major tshuva from 60 years ago, it's not such a simple thing. 19, but the result of that possibly is that what? 19 on the bottom, 312% rise in French aliyah. For whatever reason, those who willingly come during this era of kibbutz galiot are coming, and those who are willingly coming, it seems like sometimes they're getting a little bit of a nudge to come. Okay, I have already 2 pages for the 2015 Yom Haazmaut Drasha, because I cut and paste all year, so I have this crazy information. I usually have about 300 pages, and the month before I cut it down to 30 pages. So already the newest one for next year is from Ukraine, where surprise, whatever Jews are still left in Ukraine, already Aliyah is happening there. Hopefully the Jews will all come without having to be pushed out, but Hashem has his ways, and they're coming home one way or another. Number 3, record year for Israeli tourism. Okay, number 4, B'nai Menashe Aliyah, amazing stories over there you should read. Number 5, bottom of page 20, close to 70,000 passengers in Ben Gurion Airport in one day. The whole second era we had what? 40,000 came. Here we have so much going on in Israel, you can have 40,000 coming in one day, 30,000 leaving, and then they're going to come back. There's so much action here. Israel's so alive. It's so exciting, Baruch Hashem. Okay, then a very emotional flight, page 21, 6. 106 children coming to live in Israel from North America. The IDF soldier Gilad Shalit. Okay, where he was on the plane with them. Whatever you hold by the deal, not a deal, this young man, Baruch Hashem, is alive. And he was on the flight with the Nefesh B'Nefesh Lai. He's talking with them, incredible stuff. Okay, number 7, Israel's population grew tenfold since 1948. That's kibbutz galiyah. We see this, we daven every day. What bracha do we say every day? Kabel shofar, gadol l'cheretenu, v'san l'kabeitz gabir. Every day we daven about this. Okay, and we keep waiting and waiting. It's right in front of our eyes. Just look at the facts and the figures. Okay, number 5, amazing Brachot Tzvagan Israel. How do you have such a huge argument about whether Tzal is the greatest gift that we have, or like, Nebuch, the army? So once again, in my opinion, it goes back to that first point that we mentioned at the beginning of this year. If you're a pragmatic person, then, oh my gosh, we have 1 billion people around us that want to kill us, and the whole world that wants to condemn us every day. We got to protect ourselves and ask Hashem for help. So then you're going to be like, oh, thank God for Tzal. If no, Hashem Yazor, Hashem's going to help out, you just be good, do your mitzvahs and learn, everything's going to be fine, and then Tzal, you appreciate them for it. It's going to be a different head. And you know where my head is at. So look at these. Israel produces laser beam defense technology. Okay? The iron beam system uses fast-acting laser to shoot down incoming rockets. It's exactly what you see in Star Wars. I'm sure no one in the room understands what that example is. But anyways, it was whatever, something like that. 50 years ago. Star Wars, that kind of technology, that's what Israel is developing now. And the article goes on to say that every ranged missile we can take care of. If it's 3 kilometers, 40 kilometers, and you have the David sling. You have for each level missile, you have more warning time. So if you only have a second warning, you need to have the laser. If you have this 10-second warning, you have this. It's unbelievable. And of course, we always pray for Siyata Dishmaya. Germany to sell Israel 2 destroyers and €1 billion deal. That's the craziest of all things, that Germany is helping us survive. It doesn't get freakier than that. Number 22, a major strategic partner of the U.S. 4, raid on weapons ship, a great achievement for intelligence. I spoke to my cousin who was a Katzin, an officer in Sayeret Makal. That's tops. I said, wow, it's unbelievable what you guys did capturing the ship. He said, no, that was like capturing sounds like we caught a cat. He said, we don't get any credit for that. We went on, we made an announcement, gave up, we're going to destroy you, and they had no way to defend themselves, they gave up. He said, no, it was the intelligence that was just out of control. A few years ago when they swam to Turkey, and mysteriously one morning, all the propellers on the ships that were going to leave were gone and broken and sawed off. That was impressive. For the monkeys there in my car. But just going ahead and boarding the ship wasn't impressive. The intelligence, they have thousands of ships in the Red Sea. And they knew that was incredible intelligence. Okay? 5, US and Israel work together. 6, IDF combat motivation steady at 74%. You know that disgusting term post-Zionism? Post-Zionist ideal is gone. And only religious Zionists, that small group, don't want to cares about everyone else. 74% who sign up for the army don't want to be jobniks. They want to be what? They want to be fighting. They want to be involved in a very real, meaningful way. Okay? After we real do putting shit. Jet. Page 23. Israel is a military superpower. Yalon speaks to Germany. Okay, number 6. Or La Goyim. Okay, with amazing stuff that Israel is doing for the rest of the world in terms of helping out the world and developing countries who have nothing. They don't have running water. They're living in sewer. And we're going ahead and developing technologies to help them out. Amazing stuff. Medical leaders, 23 on the bottom, 24 up to 24. 5 children receive organs in 48 hours. Only a few hospitals in the world that could have so many multiple operations and surgeries going on, transplanting organs. Okay, Israel exited life of a 7-year-old Jordanian Palestinian born last week. Israel's #1 preventing blindness. Medical research is, and then the 24 is a 6 statistic. Israel among 10 most powerful nations in the world, not per capita, objectively. And you say, well, what does that mean, powerful? There's objective statistics here, based on the economy, military, agriculture, and other financial issues. It's an objective fact. And if you look at the map on page 25, you'll see who's up there. China, Russia, America, and then you can't even see Israel. It's not normal. And that's what we're doing. We're going ahead and progressing. The goal, of course, is that we're a spiritual nation. We have to keep growing in that. But all these are important means as well. Okay, Canadian PM speech. Anyone here from Canada? Because you should feel very proud if you are. What a beautiful speech he gave the Prime Minister in the Knesset a few months ago. You should read through it and go to number 26. We'll just read the last bold word on page 26. I believe this is a great example of the world. It's a story essentially of people whose response to suffering has been to move beyond resentment and build an extraordinary society of vibrant democracy, freedom-loving country, independent and rights-affirming judiciary, innovative, world-leading country. To find where Canada will stand with you. Beautiful, beautiful speech. It really amazing, very touching. And it's in the world, the objective people, the few that are out to see this is an unbelievable nation. We are really an Or Lagoyim, okay? And despite all our problems and infighting, okay, resiliency, 3 universities rate in the world's top 200. Israel's top 10 makes Bloomberg top 10 in the world. That's an amazing statistic. Okay, number 27, page 27, number 11, increasing number of Israel Arabs are volunteering in Israel's national service program. If you hold by the Shita, the only good Arab is a dead Arab, well then sorry, you're not going to appreciate that. I don't hold that. I think it's a very disgusting comment. You want to say the only good Mechabel terrorist is a dead terrorist, I'm fine with that. He wants to kill us, we should kill him first. An Arab that lives here, and if he doesn't show any desire to kill us, we go, oh, you should be dead. There's rules about the Torah once again, how to relate to other citizens in Israel. It's complicated. But for me to see that they're just getting out of that poverty, they can have more normal lives, and for their own sake, and maybe not want to destroy us, I look at it as a positive thing. Okay? A reason why Americans should celebrate Israel's Independence Day. Okay, let's just jump and finish things up here. 28, 65 ways Israel's saving our planet. Google that, it's on h.com. Very, very beautiful area of how we are helping the world out in so many ways. Literally saving our planet. Mamash or Lagoyim. Okay, you should read through that. 29, interesting article. Zionism as one should be as awakened. We're not going to go through that now. But just also a lot of beautiful things about Israel. 30 on the bottom, just someone from our shul, where he's in KBY, Yehuda Finn, and learning so beautifully, and he's at Katsin in the army, now he's going back to learn. It's a nice little war story, and then we'll finish off with 31. Such a touching story, and this one just typifies a typical Israeli Jew here. Not from, just beautiful, beautiful people. The following story is page 31. The following story is a quote by Rabbi Yaakov Pinsky, director of Hayenu Hailaf. Maybe you heard the story or not, I don't know. I just was one of the most incredible stories regarding El Al that I've ever come across in my life. Today we sent 30 Israeli children with cancer to Camp Simcha in the United States for a life-affirming break from their illness. For the past 20 years, El Al has been our partner in the process, helping us to make sure our children are safe, secure, and happy during their journey. After everyone was checked in, the Hayenu medical staff gave our children a final pre-flight examination, and our group was seated on the flight. Everyone was comfortable. Asina Fastim was collected the passports to have them prepared for entry to the United States. The passports were counted, and to everyone's shock, one was missing. No one could find Inbar's passport. Our staff looked high and low, every seat and seat pocket. No passport was found. The flight attendant immediately called the ground crew to help them locate the lost passport. Airport was alerted, and they too searched everywhere from the boarding gate to El Al craft. Time was passing fast. The flight needed to depart. Still, no passport was found. The ground crews entered the plane, searched frantically. Inbar's passport, after 25 minutes of pulling apart the aircraft, the crew admitted defeat. El Al had no chance to tell Inbar she could not fly. El Al sadly called her mother, tell her that Inbar's passport was lost, and that the girl who had been fighting in so finally would not be able to fly. Became simple. What a horrible experience for an 11-year-old girl to have to go through. Reality dawned, and everyone's passengers, crew, our group, Inbar the mood on the plane went from dismay and the inconvenience to sadness and shock. Inbar was losing the chance of vacation and illness. It was terrible to experience. It wasn't enough that she has cancer. Inbar was facing another horrible disappointment. Flight attendants were crying as they started off the plane. The door shut, and the plane left the gate. The plane was almost on the runway when some shouted that she found the passport in another child's knapsack. News was on the entire plane. Of course, the crew immediately radioed that the missing passport was on the plane. But once the plane departs from the gate, it does not return to pick up a passenger. So began frantic phone calls between El Al staff and the airline crew. El Al officers on the ground and Ben Gurion airport authorities. It seemed so hopeless. It really looked like Inbar was in for another disappointment. After 15 minutes of phone calls, the subsequent delay for more than half an hour, El Al did the unthinkable and unprecedented. The plane returned to the gate to pick up this 11-year-old girl with cancer and take her to Camp Simcha. Inbar couldn't believe it. Her dream came true. Those of us on the plane experienced something as well. Instead of hostility, they usually greet the plane delay with cheers and tears on the plane. Passengers and crew staff shared Inbar's happiness and excitement. It's one of the greatest moments I've ever experienced. No words that can describe the heartfelt gratitude and appreciation we have to El Al in the Ben Gurion airport. Authorities, they have performed a miracle for some very special people. It was an event for the history books, and everyone on the plane would be forever touched by El Al's determination to uplift Inbar. Meantime, so this is the Jewish people. Some who are not from, and that's halachic issues, but each one is a pintel yid, and each one's involved in building up this country. And Yitz Hashem, we should be able to always see all the amazing brachot that we are involved in, that Hashem is blessing us. We should be able to educate our children that way, to be optimistic, to see the good that Hashem has given us, see the challenges, work with the challenges. And in Yitz Hashem, we should just celebrate the good life. Amen.